Hey warriors, right now, you might feel like the ground beneath you is about to give way, like nothing makes sense anymore, like the plans you carefully built have quietly collapsed, like the people you trusted have drifted or disappeared, like even you feel like a stranger to yourself. You catch your reflection, and for a moment, you don't quite recognize the person staring back. That feeling is real, and it matters. Fear shows up first, that cold, creeping dread that wraps itself around your chest and makes it hard to breathe. Then doubt follows, whispering that maybe you were never as strong as you thought. And then panic. Panic is the loudest voice of all. It screams over everything else. It drowns out reason. It drowns out hope. It makes the present moment feel like it will never, ever end. But here is something I need you to hear, and I need you to really let it sink in. This moment will not last forever. You are not trapped. You are not finished. Something new, something real and unexpected and bigger than you can currently imagine is already beginning. You just can't see it yet. And that's okay. You don't need to see the whole road to take the next step. Right now, you might feel lost, hollow, or completely exhausted in ways that sleep doesn't fix. That's not weakness. That is what being fully alive feels like during a period of real transformation. That discomfort is proof that you still care. Proof that your story is not over. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." He wasn't writing that for history. He was writing it for himself, in his own darkest moments. He was reminding himself that the only territory he truly governed was the space between his own ears, and within that space, he had more power than his circumstances suggested. The same is true for you. So right now, you don't need a perfect plan. You don't need to understand everything. You only need to face this one breath, this one moment, and keep moving forward, step by step. Every morning you get up when getting up feels pointless. That matters. Every time you choose to stay when leaving would be easier, that matters. Every small act of endurance is a sentence in a story that is still being written. And you are still the one holding the pen. So stop letting panic write your story for you. Breathe. Stay. Keep going. Pause for a moment. Type this in the comments and make it yours. I will endure. I will rise. Number 1. Panic lies about permanence. Panic is a liar, not a subtle one, not a sophisticated one. Panic is the loudest, most dramatic liar you will ever encounter. And its favorite lie is this: that whatever pain you're feeling right now will last forever. That this sadness will become your permanent state. That this failure defines you. That the walls you see closing in are the final walls, and there is no door. But that has never been the truth. Not for anyone, not for you. Nothing in life stays the same. Not pain, not grief, not confusion, not even joy. Life is not a still photograph. It is a river. It moves constantly, even when it looks calm on the surface, and you move with it, whether you feel it or not. Think about your own life for a moment. Were there times, maybe years ago, maybe just a few months ago, when you felt completely broken? When you were carrying something so heavy you weren't sure your legs could hold it? When you lay awake in the dark, convinced you would never recover from the heartbreak, the failure, the humiliation, the loss? And yet, here you are. You survived those days. You got through those nights. You carried weight you thought would crush you, and somehow, you're still here, still breathing. That's not a small thing. That is enormous proof that the hardest moments don't last forever. They pass. They always pass. The real damage panic does isn't just making you feel terrible in the moment. The deeper damage is that it steals your memory of resilience. It makes you forget every hard season you've already survived. It erases your evidence. And when it convinces you that this time is different, that this time there is no way through, you stop looking for the door. You stop moving. You freeze. Rumi wrote, "Where there is ruin, there is hope for a treasure." The places in your life that feel most broken right now are not empty rubble. They are being cleared. They are being prepared. The pain you feel is often the exact pressure required to push you towards something you would never have found in comfort. Here is another thing panic does that most people don't notice. It convinces you that your only job right now is to figure everything out, to solve it all, to control the outcome, to know with certainty exactly how this will end and when it will get better. And the harder you push for that certainty, the more anxious and exhausted you become, because certainty about the future is simply not available to any human being. It never has been. Peace isn't found in controlling the outcome. Peace is found in trusting the process, in showing up honestly, staying present with what is actually in front of you, and taking the next available step, even when the full path is invisible. Most of the change that matters most in your life won't announce itself. It will happen quietly, in how you think, in how you respond, in the way you choose to endure one more difficult day. Every small act of persistence is proof that the river is still moving, even when the surface looks completely still. There is also something worth saying about what happens in your body when panic takes over. Your nervous system is not trying to harm you, it's trying to protect you. The racing heart, the tight chest, the shallow breathing, the overwhelming sense that something terrible is about to happen. These are ancient survival mechanisms. They were designed for immediate physical danger. But your nervous system doesn't always distinguish between a lion in the grass and an uncertain future. It responds with the same alarm. Understanding that doesn't make the panic disappear, but it does shift the relationship you have with it. Instead of fearing your own fear, you can recognize it as a signal that's firing too loudly for a situation that isn't actually life or death. And once you recognize that, you can begin to breathe your way through it rather than be swept away by it. Slow, deliberate breathing is not a trick or a platitude. It is a genuine physiological intervention. When you extend your exhale longer than your inhale, you directly activate your parasympathetic nervous system, the part responsible for calm. Your body responds. The alarm begins to quiet. Not because the situation has changed, but because you have interrupted the cycle. Panic cannot survive a long, steady exhale. It needs the shallow, fast breathing to keep its grip. The moment you breathe slowly and deliberately, you take something back, something small but real, a moment of agency in the middle of chaos. Take a slow breath right now, and let that truth settle into you. You are not frozen. You are not finished. You are moving. Even now. Number 2. You are growing in ways you cannot see yet. Growth is quiet. It doesn't come with a press release or a standing ovation. It doesn't send you a notification. Most of the time, growth feels like confusion, like disorientation, like the life you understood no longer fits, like a coat you loved that suddenly pulls tight at the shoulders and won't button at the chest. That feeling isn't failure. That feeling is evidence. Evidence that you have outgrown who you were. Growth doesn't wait until you feel comfortable. It doesn't ask permission. It doesn't care if you feel ready. Growth begins the moment the old version of you can no longer contain the person you're becoming. And that transition almost always feels like breaking before it feels like becoming. Right now, you might be looking at other people's lives and feeling like you're behind, like everyone else has figured something out that you missed. You see people moving forward, achieving things, celebrating milestones, and you feel stuck. invisible, like you're treading water while the world moves past you. Here's what that comparison misses entirely. What you cannot see is what's happening beneath the surface of your own life. Your mind right now is learning resilience, the kind that can only be built by actually navigating difficulty, not by reading about it or watching someone else do it. Your heart is developing endurance it never needed before. Your sense of self is being asked to go deeper, to find its footing in something more stable than favorable circumstances. You don't build that kind of foundation in easy seasons. You can't. It is forged in exactly the kind of season you're living through right now. Epictetus wrote, "Difficulties show men what they are, not what they were, what they are in this moment, under pressure." Difficulty is not the opposite of your strength. It is the very place your strength is revealed. Every hardship you're carrying right now is showing you something about yourself that ease would never reveal. Your actual capacity to adapt. Your reserves of patience that you never had to access before because you never needed them. In a comfortable life, these qualities sleep. It takes pressure to wake them up. You are not falling apart. You are being rebuilt, slowly, quietly, from the inside out. Like roots growing beneath soil, you can't see them, you can't track their progress, but they are there, stretching, deepening, building a foundation that will one day support something remarkable. The most important growth almost always happens in the invisible. It happens in the space between what you fear and what you choose. Every time you breathe through anxiety, instead of surrendering to it. Every time you have the honest conversation you've been avoiding. Every time you wake up and try again without being certain it will work. That quiet, unglamorous persistence is not meaningless. In many ways, it is the most important work of your life. Here is something worth sitting with. You are not the same person you were a year ago. Even if you can't see the difference clearly from the inside, the challenges you've faced have deepened you, made you more honest about what matters, more discerning about where you invest your energy, more self-aware in ways you simply weren't before. That's not a loss. That is refinement. Trust the version of yourself that is still forming. Trust that life is not punishing you. Life is preparing you, and what it's preparing you for will make sense one day, even if it makes absolutely no sense today. Number 3. You have survived every hard day before this one. I want you to think back. Go back to some earlier chapter of your life and remember a day when you truly weren't sure you would make it through. A day when the weight on your chest made it hard to breathe. When your mind was convinced that this moment, this pain, this failure, this loss was simply more than you could survive. Hold that memory for a moment. Now look at where you are. You made it through that day. You made it through that night. You carried that weight, even though you were certain you couldn't. Something inside you refused to stop, even when stopping seemed like the only option left. That is not coincidence. That is not luck. That is evidence of something real and permanent inside you, a resilience that exists whether or not you can feel it right now. Here's what most people never fully acknowledge about their own survival. You did not need to feel strong to survive. You didn't need perfect confidence, perfect clarity, or a certain plan. You just needed to keep breathing. You just needed to keep going. And you did. Quietly. Imperfectly. Sometimes just barely. But you did. And that means something profound. It means that whatever is happening right now, you have already proven that you can handle something this hard. Your past is full of evidence that panic would rather you forget. Panic is strategic about this. It wants to isolate you in the present moment, cut off from your own history of strength. It wants you to feel like this time is different. But your own life tells a completely different story. You have faced uncertainty before and found your footing. You have faced loss before and kept living. You have faced fear before and moved forward anyway, even when moving forward felt impossible. The philosopher Nietzsche wrote, "He who has a why to live can bear almost any how." That line is one of the most honest things ever said about human endurance. It means the strength to survive almost anything is accessible to you, as long as you hold on to your reason, your purpose, the people you love, the future you're still reaching toward, the person you're still, even now, in the process of becoming. Your strength has never been measured by how easy your life is. It's measured by your willingness to keep going when it isn't. And by that measure, you are far stronger than you give yourself credit for. Life is not asking you to be fearless right now. It's not asking you to pretend the pain isn't real or to perform a confidence you don't feel. It's simply asking you to keep moving, even slowly, even imperfectly. Survival doesn't always look heroic. Sometimes it looks like simply getting out of bed. Sometimes it looks like making a cup of tea and getting through one more hour. Sometimes it looks like crying, then drying your eyes and deciding, quietly with no fanfare, to try again tomorrow. All of that counts. Every moment of it. There is something else worth acknowledging here. The fact that you have survived hard things before doesn't mean those things were okay. It doesn't mean the losses weren't real or the pain wasn't valid. Surviving doesn't require you to reframe your past as secretly good or pretend that everything happened for a reason. Some things are just hard. Some losses are just real, and you are allowed to hold that truth fully. What survival gives you is not a philosophy about why suffering is secretly worthwhile. What survival gives you is a simple, practical fact. You have done hard things before. That's it. That's the whole gift. Not a grand narrative, just a fact. And facts have weight. They have gravitational pull. When you remember that fact clearly, when you hold it close instead of letting panic erase it, it changes the texture of the present difficulty, not because the difficulty shrinks, but because your sense of your own capacity expands to meet it. You have survived 100% of your hardest days so far. This day is no different. Life will change. It always does. And when it does, you will still be standing. Number 4. Life breaks what cannot carry your future. Some things fall apart because they were never strong enough to carry where you're going. That's a difficult truth to sit with when you're in the middle of losing something. When a relationship ends, a dream dissolves, or a version of your life you were counting on simply stops being available. It doesn't feel like preparation. It feels like punishment. Like the universe got it wrong. Like something important was taken that you deserve to keep. That grief is real. You don't need to rush through it or pretend it isn't there. But I want you to hold this alongside your grief, not instead of it. Not everything that leaves your life is a tragedy. Some things leave because they have completed their purpose. Some things leave because they cannot grow alongside the person you are becoming. Some relationships, habits, and environments were exactly what you needed for a particular season. They were meaningful, they served you, but they were never meant to be permanent. They couldn't contain who you're becoming, and so life, in its strange and sometimes brutal wisdom, began to loosen their grip. When a dream collapses, it is almost never the end of all dreaming. It is often a redirection, a correction toward a dream that actually fits the person you're becoming right now, not the person you thought you needed to be. The original dream belonged to an older version of you, and that version has been replaced by someone with different knowledge, different wounds, different strengths. When a relationship ends, it's often because the version of yourself inside that relationship has grown beyond what that dynamic could hold. That is not failure. It is growth manifesting as change, which is almost always uncomfortable, almost always unwanted, and almost always necessary. The spiritual teacher Eckhart Tolle once wrote, Sometimes letting things go is an act of far greater power than defending or hanging on. Holding on takes energy, constant vigilance, constant justification. It keeps your hands occupied so they can't receive anything new. Letting go doesn't feel powerful in the moment. It feels like loss, but it opens something. It creates space. And in that space, something can finally arrive that your full hands had no room for. It takes real courage to release what is familiar, even when what's familiar is hurting you. Familiarity has a gravity that logic alone can't overcome. Releasing it, really releasing it, not just telling yourself you have, is an act of quiet bravery that most people never talk about. What becomes clear on the other side of genuine letting go is this: endings reveal your independence. They show you that your identity is not tied to any single person, circumstance, or chapter. They remind you that you are not defined by what you have, or who you're with, or what your life looks like from the outside. You are something deeper and more constant than any of that. This moment of loss is not your destruction. It is your transition. And transitions, by definition, always lead somewhere new. Number 5. Your timeline is not broken. There is a particularly painful kind of panic that comes from comparison. You see someone your age who seems to have it all together, achieving things you hoped you'd have achieved by now, standing at a milestone while you're still not sure which road you're on. And something quiet and corrosive begins to grow, a feeling that you are behind, that you are too late, that everyone else received some instruction manual for life that you somehow missed. I want to address that feeling directly, because it does real damage to real people, and it is built almost entirely on illusions. Your life is not a race with a universal finish line. There is no cosmic leaderboard where other people's accomplishments reduce your score. There is no expiration date on your purpose, your growth, or your chance at a meaningful life. These are stories absorbed from a culture obsessed with visible milestones and timed success. But they are not true. Every person whose life looks like they have it figured out has lived through seasons of deep confusion, private failure, and quiet despair that their public story never shows. What you see is a highlight reel, not a full documentary. You are comparing the inside of your experience, the doubts, the 3 a.m. moments, the things that haven't worked, against the curated outside of theirs. That comparison will always feel unfair, because it is. Life moves in seasons. Some seasons are for building, laying foundations that aren't visible yet, gathering skills and relationships that will matter later in ways you can't predict now. Some seasons are for waiting, sitting with uncertainty, learning the kind of patience that cannot be faked or rushed. Some seasons are for healing, and some seasons are for rising, when everything you've quietly built finally starts to show up in the world in ways you can see and feel. You cannot rush a season. You can try, but forcing a spring in the middle of winter exhausts you without accelerating anything. The season shifts when it shifts, and when yours does, things move in ways that feel almost effortless, because you are finally working with your life, rather than fighting the timing of it. Maya Angelou once said, "We may encounter many defeats, but we must not be defeated." The distinction matters. Defeat is something that happens to you. Being defeated is something you choose. You can lose a round without losing the fight. You can be knocked down without being finished. Delays don't cancel your destiny. Slow progress is still progress. And sometimes the seasons that feel most like standing still are the most important ones, because the lessons available in stillness cannot be learned while moving fast. Lessons about what you actually value, about who you actually are when everything external is stripped away. Seeds grow in silence long before they break through the surface. The work happens underground, invisible, in the dark. And then one day, without warning, something appears. Something that was always coming, that was always growing, that you just couldn't see from where you were standing. You are not late. You are not a failed version of someone else's life. You are exactly where you need to be to become who you are meant to be. Your moment will come, not because you forced it, but because you stayed steady long enough to meet it. There is one more thing about timelines that's worth saying. The metric you're using to measure yourself may simply be the wrong metric. If the measure is how quickly did you reach certain external milestones, you will always be able to find someone who got there faster. That metric will never make you feel enough. It is a race with no finish line and an infinite field of competitors. But if the measure is something different, how well do you know yourself? How honest are you with the people in your life? How much have you grown in your capacity to handle difficulty, to sit with discomfort, to remain yourself under pressure? Then the timeline looks completely different. By those measures, what you're going through right now might be the most productive chapter of your entire life, even though it doesn't look like it from the outside, even though it certainly doesn't feel like it from the inside. The most meaningful growth very rarely photographs well. Number 6. The version of you that survives this will be unrecognizable. Pain changes you, not always in ways other people can see, not always in ways you can explain or put into words, but pain reaches deep into who you are and rearranges things. It shifts what you care about. It reorders your priorities. It shows you with a kind of brutal clarity what actually matters and what was always just noise dressed up as importance. The version of you who walks out of this season will not be the same person who walked into it. And I want to be very clear, that is not something to mourn. That is something to respect. The strongest people are not the ones who escaped pain. They are the ones who walked through it and refused to let it determine who they became on the other side. They used the fire to burn away what was false, the pretenses, the performances, the identity built on approval and comfortable circumstances. And what remained after that burning was something real, something that doesn't depend on external conditions to feel okay. Right now, you might feel fragile, like parts of you that felt solid are beginning to crack. What I want to offer you is a different way of seeing what's actually happening. This is not destruction, this is excavation. Life is peeling back layers you no longer need, the armor you built for an older version of your life, the automatic beliefs you inherited without ever consciously choosing them, the sense of self that was borrowed from your circumstances rather than built from your character. That process hurts. Of course it does, but what it reveals is real, and real is stronger than anything built on illusion. Ernest Hemingway wrote that the world breaks everyone, and afterward many are strong at the broken places. When bone breaks and heals properly, the healed area becomes denser than the bone surrounding it. When metal is worked under high heat, it becomes harder. The places where you feel most damaged today may become the places where you stand most firmly tomorrow. Not in spite of what happened, because of what you chose to do with it. Pain forces you to discover capacities you didn't know you had. You begin to find, often to your own surprise, a steadiness that doesn't require everything to be okay. A confidence that isn't built on performance but on the simple, hard-earned knowledge that you have faced difficult things and kept your integrity intact. That's a different kind of confidence than what comes from easy success. Easy success can be shaken by the next difficulty. The confidence built on surviving hardship has roots. It holds when storms come. What you're losing in this season is not who you are. What you're losing is who you thought you were. the identity wrapped around circumstances that have now changed. What you are gaining is yourself. The version that doesn't collapse when conditions change. The one that can sit with uncertainty without it becoming unbearable. Do not mistake transformation for collapse. What is dissolving was never the whole of you. It was only the outer layer, and the person being revealed beneath it is stronger, more honest, and far more capable than the one who existed inside the comfort zone. You are not breaking, you are becoming, and what you are becoming will carry a wisdom that no comfortable life could ever have given you. Number 7. Courage is practiced in small, quiet ways. We have this idea about courage that is almost entirely wrong. We imagine it as something loud and dramatic. The hero who charges into battle, or stands before thousands, or makes one decisive, irreversible choice that changes everything. Bold, certain, unafraid. We picture courage in its most cinematic form, and then measure our own messy, uncertain daily experience against it, and we conclude, almost every time, that we don't have what it takes. But that is not what courage actually looks like in real life. Real courage is quiet. It's getting out of bed when you have no particular reason to. It's going to work when anxiety is telling you to hide. It's saying the honest thing in a relationship when you know it might create conflict. It's sitting with a difficult feeling instead of numbing it. It's choosing, against all available evidence, to believe that things can still get better. These moments don't make for impressive stories. They happen in private. Nobody notices. Nobody applauds. But they are the actual substance of a courageous life. Thousands of small decisions, accumulated over years, where you chose to show up instead of disappear. Right now, courage may feel completely out of reach. You might feel like you have nothing left, like the mere act of facing another day is already asking more than you have. And in that state, the idea of being brave might feel almost laughable. But look at what you're already doing. You are here. You are present. You are choosing to engage with your life rather than abandoning it. You are listening to words about endurance and hope rather than surrendering entirely to despair. That is not nothing. That is a form of courage, small, quiet, but absolutely real. Brené Brown, who has spent years studying how human beings navigate vulnerability and fear, wrote that courage starts with showing up and letting ourselves be seen, not performing certainty, not pretending to be fine when we're not, just showing up, honestly, with whatever we actually have in this moment. That is the threshold. You don't have to feel brave. You don't have to feel confident or certain or ready. You only have to be willing to face what's in front of you as it actually is. Willing to take the next step without knowing exactly where it leads. Willing to trust that your persistence matters, even when you can't see how. Here is what I want you to understand about quiet, consistent courage. It compounds over time. Each time you show up when you wanted to hide, it becomes a fraction easier the next time. Each time you breathe through fear instead of running from it, something in you learns that fear is survivable. You build a track record with yourself, and slowly, without you necessarily noticing, you become someone who knows, not as an idea, but as a lived fact, that hard things can be endured, because you have endured them. Again and again, in private, without applause. Panic tries to convince you that one wrong step will ruin everything, that if you can't do it perfectly, there is no point in trying. This is one of the most damaging lies anxiety tells, because it paralyzes people at the exact moment when imperfect action is the only thing that could move them forward. Courage is not the absence of mistakes. It is the decision to keep going despite them. The version of you that practices courage quietly and consistently, without recognition, in moments no one else will ever know about, that version becomes something genuinely difficult to break. Not because they feel no fear, but because they have proven to themselves over and over that fear doesn't have to stop them. That quiet bravery, that persistent, unglamorous daily decision to keep going is how life changes. Not through one dramatic leap, through the accumulation of thousands of small steps taken in the right direction, through showing up for your own life again and again, even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard. Don't underestimate what you're already doing. Don't dismiss the courage it takes to simply be here. Every small act of showing up is proof that change is already happening. Every day you get through is evidence of a strength that is growing, quietly, in exactly the ways that last. The truth that outlasts panic. You came into this carrying a lot of weight, maybe fear, maybe grief, maybe a kind of exhaustion that goes beyond tired and settles somewhere deep in the bones, maybe a growing belief, quiet, persistent, difficult to argue with, that things will not get better, that the ground has shifted permanently, that the version of your life you hoped for is simply no longer available to you. I want to speak directly to that belief. It is not true. I understand why it feels true. I understand that from inside a difficult season, the difficulty can feel like permanent geography rather than temporary weather. But the evidence of every human life ever lived says otherwise. Not just the lives of famous people who overcame extraordinary things. Ordinary people. People who felt exactly what you feel right now. People who were convinced, as you might be, that their particular situation was the exception. The one that wouldn't change. It changed. It always changes. Life is moving right now, even as it feels completely still. Even when you can't detect any movement, the river is flowing. The season is shifting. Change is not something you have to earn or force or deserve. It is the fundamental nature of life itself. Nothing stays the same. Not pain, not grief, not confusion, not even the panic that is telling you otherwise. Every trial you're enduring is shaping you in ways that won't be clear until later. Every loss, as real and painful as it is, has created space for something your old life had no room for. Every pause, every period of silence and waiting is part of a preparation you can't fully see yet, preparing you for what comes next, even if you can't imagine what that is. The version of you that walks through this will be something different, harder to break, more honestly yourself, carrying a quiet confidence that only this kind of journey can build. Not the confidence that comes from things going well, but the deeper confidence that comes from knowing you can handle things going wrong. And here is what I want you to hold on to most. Your past is full of proof. Every season you have ever survived, every night that felt like it would never end, every moment when the floor disappeared and you had to find some other surface to stand on, you survived all of it. You are here. You are not weak. You are not trapped. You are not behind. You are not too broken, too lost, or too late. You're in the middle of a season. Seasons end. You have endured every season before this one. You will endure this one too, not because it's easy, and not because you feel strong enough right now, but because you have a deep habit of endurance that runs underneath your fear and has always been there. So breathe. Actually breathe right now. Let your shoulders drop. Let the tension in your jaw release. Let yourself, for just a moment, stop fighting the fact that this is hard. It is hard, and you are handling it. Not perfectly, not without fear, but you are present. You are still here. You are still choosing your life rather than abandoning it. That is not a small thing. That is everything. Trust yourself. Take the next small step. Just the next one. Then the one after that. You don't need to see the whole road. You only need to see far enough for the next step. The road reveals itself as you walk it. Because life will change. It always changes. The only question was whether you would still be standing when it did. You will be. You already are. Keep going. The story isn't over. And you are still the one holding the pen. One final thought before this ends. Whatever brought you to this message today, whatever weight you were carrying when you pressed play, I hope you walk away with one thing clearer than it was before. Not a solution, not a roadmap, just clarity on one simple truth. You are not alone in this. Every person who has ever felt the ground give way, who has ever stared at a future that looked impossible, who has ever lost sleep over a life that didn't look the way they hoped, they were not abandoned by life, and neither are you. The panic is loud, but it is not the whole story. It never has been. You are still here. That is enough for today. That is, in fact, everything. I want you to drop this affirmation in the comments. I am stronger than my fears.